What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. You're watching the daily series of Nwadei MMA, where I give you my thoughts, but more importantly, ask for you guys' thoughts, because you guys are the MMA community, and there's always something happening in the MMA community. Today, we're going to be talking about Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov. This is a short notice matchup for this weekend at UFC Abu Dhabi. Originally, Robert Whittaker was supposed to be fighting Khamzat Chimaev for the #1 contender spot in order to fight the winner at UFC 305 between recently announced fight Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis for the middleweight title. However, Khamzat Chimaev has fallen ill. They say it's due to food poisoning. Dana White is saying he was violently ill. They were questioning if he was going to fight again. Even the likes of Demetrius Johnson was questioning if this is a reoccurring thing, how he is going to manage for the rest of his career, and a whole bunch of things like that. But if you guys want to hear more about the Khamzat Chimaev situation, let me know in the comments down below and I'll be happy to make a video about it. However, interestingly enough, Ikram, whose only loss has come to Khamzat Chimaev, has taken the replacement fight against Robert Whittaker, and in order to give props to the other side, Robert Whittaker has taken him on short notice as well. In my opinion, this is an even tougher matchup than Khamzat, and I'll go ahead and tell you why as we get along with the video. But before that, guys, I just want to thank you for stopping by my channel. Thank you for 2,000 subscribers. We're making our way to 3,000 shortly, so please continue to support that content, and you can do that by giving this video a thumbs up, subscribing to the channel to be a part of the family, and leaving your thoughts and opinions down below, as well as more video suggestions. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, Ikram Aliskerov is 15-1. Like I said earlier, his only loss came to Khamzat Chimaev in Brave FC years ago, and he just might be the most avoided fighter in the entire middleweight division. Dana White has said on multiple occasions that he has been offered to everybody in the top 15, some of them even multiple times, and has been denied every single time. His only 2 fights have been outside of the top 15, or 3 if you want to consider the contender series, but he has not left the very first round. In the contender series, he had a submission win via Kimura, and since he made his debut, it's only been knockouts in the UFC in the first round. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, the way I like to do these breakdowns is I like to break down each fighter style based off of their previous fights, give you their keys to victory going into this fight against each other, and then at the end of the video, I like to give you guys my official prediction. Now, the first fighter I want to break down is going to be Ikram Aliskerov, because we know much more about Robert Whittaker, or at least you guys do. Now, going into Ikram's style based off of his past fights, in the UFC, he's fought Phil Hawes and Warley Alves. Both of these fights ended in a knockout, and in both of them, it was the first round. Now, mind you, his last 3 fights have all been finishes within the first round, but he's not a first round fighter. He's actually a fighter who gets better as the time goes on. And I think that this is what a lot of people have been seeing and why a lot of people have been avoiding him. It doesn't just have to do with the fact that he's a multiple time combat sambo world champion, yes, similar to Khabib and Islam Makhachev, but he hasn't even had to use any of that background in his past few fights. In my opinion, I think he is the more calculated and better fighter than Khamzat Chimaev. I think he's just more well-rounded. His striking is more methodical. He's less aggressive in a sense. I mean, he still definitely has that aggression to him, but his forward pressure is very methodical, and then when he wants to, he'll explode into range with a flying knee, or he's even light on that lead leg to where he could just flick it up there and throw knees behind it. He'll do this thing to where he throws a lead side head kick into a lead side step in knee, and he's caught multiple people with it. His lead flying knee is absolutely devastating, not to mention his jab and his cross are both pinpoint and precise, and he can throw them very seamlessly. And when he wants to put on that pressure, when he wants to keep inching forward, it seems like his opponents just never recognize when he's in range to really hurt him with the pinpoint jab and cross. Now, he's not a perfect fighter because everybody has their holes, right? But that is just the striking that we talked about. His wrestling is literally over the moon. And while Robert Whittaker has faced great wrestlers like Yoel Romero didn't really have that great of jiu-jitsu or grappling when it actually got to the ground. He was more of a, I'm just gonna take you down, and his wrestling is so explosive that he couldn't really use it to wear you down without wearing himself down in the process. However, guys like Dricus du Plessis and Marvin Vettori didn't really get Robert down very often. Dricus had the ground game to go with his wrestling that actually took a toll on Robert Whittaker. That's the same thing that Ikram Aliskerov could do. Like I said, I think his wrestling is better than Khamzat Chimaev's and more calculated. His ground game is more methodical, and he never stops moving. Khamzat Chimaev, he will explode. And what I mean by this is Khamzat Chimaev will explode through his opponent, make the whole fight like a wrestling match. It's a sprint right out the gate. And if you can't match up with where he's going next, you'll end up getting caught in a submission. Ikram Aliskerov will methodically approach you with his boxing because it's very good, and when the time comes, will take you down. He'll put you up against the cage and he will float on top. I mean, it literally looks like he's floating, going from transition to transition. If you've trained jiu-jitsu or wrestling, you'll see just how impressive it really is. He never stops attacking. There's never a moment where he takes a deep breath and just sits there or holds on or lays in praise. It's very exciting grappling and very effective and scary for the rest of the division. That's why he's the most avoided. It's not just the striking, it's the grappling as well. And lastly, it's the fact that since he's been in the UFC, matter of fact, in his whole Brave career outside of the Khamzat Chimaev fight, the man hasn't taken damage at all. At least not in the fights. The training camps we don't know about, but in the fights, he's taken zero freaking damage. I mean, there's fights where he doesn't get hit and he's finishing them in the third round or second round. We thought that was impressive with Khamzat Chimaev, but this guy is a different animal. And because of that freshness, it's going to be a very difficult fight for Robert Whittaker and the rest of the middleweight division as well. Now, his keys to victory going into this fight against Robert the Reaper Whittaker is going to be to almost do what Dricus du Plessis did and methodically try and walk down Robert Whittaker. Now, I do believe Robert Whittaker had cardio issues in that first fight with Dricus du Plessis, so I don't think that was necessarily the best version. But with a guy that darts in and out so fast, that's what you want to do. You want to kind of smother the space and void in between you. That way there's less for you to worry about, less that can really surprise you if you just smother it. So first key to victory would be that smothering type of methodical pressure that he already is very good at. His second key to victory going into this fight with Robert Whittaker would be to use his high kick, the lead side high kick, which he's very fond of. The reason I'm saying this is because Robert Whittaker, when he throws his jab, he tends to lead off the center line, which is good if you're going against a regular boxer. But the fact that Ikram throws that high kick so effortlessly, I believe he could really time that, and it's a chink in Robert Whittaker's armor that can be well exploited. Pairing that head kick with his already crisp 1-2s and his great grappling, I think will make him very hard to beat. And lastly, for his key to victory, obviously we know that he has to wrestle, or that he should wrestle against Robert Whittaker, but let's not forget that he is a big middleweight compared to Robert Whittaker, who was coming up from welterweight earlier in his career. And that being said, I think it's very important for him to clinch Robert Whittaker up and feel his strength, feel his weaknesses very early into the fight. Another thing clinching will help to do is to nullify that explosive distance covering that Robert Whittaker has, and the initial speed advantage that Robert Whittaker will also probably have. In saying this, clinching him up will also make it a lot easier to press him against the cage and eventually take him down. And I think that if Ikram Aliskerov is on top of Robert Whittaker, it's not going to be a very long night, because even if Robert Whittaker is able to survive, he's going to have to use a massive amount of energy in order to do so, and that will not help him even if he gets back up. Now, on the other side, with Robert Whittaker, his past fights, his style based off of those, and his keys to victory. Robert Whittaker has been around for a while. He started his UFC career in the welterweight division, ended up moving up after getting knocked out by Stephen Thompson, and that's going to be relevant. I'm going to let you know why in a second. And that's where his reign really began. He had, I believe, a 5-fight finish streak in order to get him to the title, defeating guys like Derek Brunson, Jacare Souza, and even Yoel Romero in order to get to the title. But then even after getting the title and losing it to Israel Adesanya, he went on another tear, beating guys like Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori, Kelvin Gastelum, Paulo Costa, Darren Till, and the list goes on and on. I mean, Robert Whittaker, to everyone, should be known as the third greatest middleweight of all time, no doubt about it. If Israel Adesanya did not exist, he would have reigned on top for at least 7 to 8 years. However, his last loss came to Dricus du Plessis in a fight where it looked like he almost gassed out before being finished there at the end. Now, there was reasons for that in his training camp, but making no excuses, making no bones about it, let's go ahead and break down his style. Robert Whittaker, we all know him to be this darty, karate-based style where he has very good footwork. He can float in and out of range seamlessly. He's very explosive. He has a lot of power and speed. His favorite combination is probably that 1-2 head kick. But we can't forget about his laser fast leaping left hook as well. And not to mention that he's made his whole career off of beating wrestlers. That's what he's done. I mean, the Yoel Romero fights, the Derek Brunson fight, Marvin Vettori, Jack Jesus, I mean, the list goes on. But I think one of the most under-recognized traits is his durability, his heart, and his toughness, which I believe will all be tested in this fight with Ikram Aliskerov. Now going into Robert Whittaker's keys to victory in this fight in order to defeat Ikram, I really believe that Robert Whittaker needs to exploit Ikram Aliskerov's methodical forward pressure, and the way he'll be able to do this is by using that lead side kick to the knee, which he already does very well. We saw in the Yoel Romero fight that it had a big effect on Yoel Romero's ability to come forward, and he slowed down multiple people with that lead side kick. Not only that, but it'll help him to slow the pace and keep the distance manageable to where he still has that initial space in the void to keep it in kicking range and dart in and out of that boxing range like how he likes to do. So using that lead side kick to damage the lead leg, I would also suggest roundhouse kicks to that lead leg just to take it away, because the way you slow down a wrestler is by kicking his lead leg. If he can't drive and explode off that lead leg, it's a lot less likely that he's going to be able to explode and take you down. Second key to victory for Robert Whittaker going into this fight will be to use a lot of footwork. Ikram Aliskerov is very flat-footed, which often comes from that combat sambo or wrestling base, to where that's why he's methodically coming forward and walking forward. He's flat-footed, so if you could take angles to move around him and make him really try to find his range with that jab, that's what'll make you able to counter that jab. Similar to the way Khamzat Chimaev did. Khamzat was able to slip inside and throw an uppercut. However, it'll work just as well slipping outside, throwing an uppercut. You just have to be aware of that lead side high kick. So using his footwork to make the jab predictable would be my second key to victory for Robert Whittaker. And then my third key to victory would be to attack the body. I mean, whether it's teep kicks, jabs, or crosses to the body, anything straight to the body I think would be almost imperative for Robert Whittaker. If you throw it round, it's very easy to get caught, but if you throw like side kicks to the body or straight punches to the body, darting in and out of range, it'll be hard not only to counter you, but it'll also take effect on his gas tank, and it'll really make him have to worry about changing levels. With that being said, my official prediction for this fight, now this is going to leave you guys a lot of times in the middle, and I'm sorry for that, but I gotta say it how I see it. I believe that Ikram Aliskerov has all the potential in the world to defeat Robert Whittaker. I believe that this isn't really a short notice fight for him because he was already getting ready to fight another opponent. Style wise and strategy wise, yes, it's a short fight for both of them, but I believe that the freshness of Ikram Aliskerov will let him be able to win in a war with Robert Whittaker if it comes to it. I think he has better grappling, and I think he's just very smart with the way he approaches these fights. Not to say Robert Whittaker isn't, and I think that'll allow him to get the job done. I'm thinking first, second round TKO is probably the way it's gonna go, unless he gets it to the ground. He has a very solid Kimura, which I think he can also use to get Robert Whittaker out of there. However, I will say this, and I'm gonna leave it off with this, and I've said this before, every time I doubt Robert Whittaker's chin, he proves me wrong and he wins. I was talking about the freshness of Ikram Aliskerov, but every time, it has not failed me yet. I doubted it against Paulo Costa, I doubted it against Marvin Vettori, I even doubted it against Jared Cannonier. Every time I doubt his chin, I'm proven wrong. With that being said, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Leave your official predictions for UFC Abu Dhabi down below. Thank you guys for stopping by my video. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.